sometimes very introverted people also come to me and they ask, can I become a PM? I'm like, chances are low, but you should give it a shot. People are not very sure, who they are. And it's a hard thing. Most of us spend our entire life trying to find who we are and then we die. So I'm like, it's a hard thing. But when it comes to career, things are not that hard. You can actually, narrow down the problem. All we are asking is, do you like talking to people and understanding their viewpoint? The first question of the day for the Fireside, which is, with the current advancements in AI, how do you think the roles of product managers and engineers will look like 5 to 10 years from now? And what's one skill you would say is an absolute must to stay ahead? And I'm asking for both product and engineering because uh, there is no software company in the world, by the way, where there is a product manager and there are no engineers. Or there are 3, 4 product managers and then there are no engineers. A product manager just cannot be successful without engineering counterparts. So that's why I want them to understand perspective on both the sides. Okay, you want to go ahead?
Um, I think so. Yeah, like everyone's talking about AI right now all the time, right? First of all, like who here has used ChatGPT? Raise your hand if you have ever searched for anything on ChatGPT. Okay, so everyone's using AI. Like, let's be real. Second, I think the fear of losing jobs. It's a little bit like, to me, AI is a little bit like mobile. Like, who was scared of using mobile phones? All of us at some point. Like, maybe not some of you guys who are Gen Z, but everyone else who was not born with a mobile in their hands was somehow, kind of like, oh, I don't know, like if I put it on charge all night, like will it blow up? Like there were random rumors around, and we were to some degree, I would not say afraid, but like there was some fear, right? So technology has a way of figuring itself out. Give it enough time, it will be a part of each of our lives. And fundamentally, I think what it is giving us right now, and we are seeing this in our teams as of today, is that it's giving us a lot of speed. It's enabling us to experiment and iterate a lot faster. It's enabling, from engineering perspective, obviously all our engineers are using Copilot at Cult, amongst many other things that we are trying to do. It's enabling us to use a bunch of data that we had for so long and we were not able to really utilize to its full potential, right? So we are building really interesting, I mean, everything from like accounting in Cult right now to customer experience is there's some component of AI that we are using. Our designers are using Midjourney all the time, like bunch of these things, right? Really, really interesting tools. Um, when it comes to PMs, I think, so you also asked like what will stay, right? Fundamentally, I think the biggest role of a PM is to nail the insight, is to really understand the customers, both what is said and what is unsaid. And the unsaid part is definitely the more important one. Um, that I don't think is going anywhere. The second thing I don't think is going anywhere is creativity, which I think is like probably the least spoken about skill in product management and the one that makes you fucking best. Like if you want to really understand how to solve complex business problems using least amount of tech, using like having a lot of speed, you need to be creative. Like to me, I describe creativity, and all my PMs are ranked on creativity. It's one of the most important things that I look at along with stakeholder management or all these other things. And I define it very simply as your ability to solve real world problems in unnatural ways. So it will not feel normal. It will seem dumb to someone that when you're explaining it at times, but it will lead to the faster solution. So I think creativity is not going anywhere. Your insights are not going anywhere. But AI will even help in those two things, right? Like now when I interview customers and I have a bunch of data from them, including like, recordings and all of that, I upload it to Notebook LM and take its help along with like thoughts that I'm thinking. Just allows me to document faster, move faster, right? So I think it's going to impact all of us in everything that we do. And it's up to us, how do we really utilize it? Fun fact, I recently went on a solo trip and ChatGPT was literally my best buddy the entire time. So even in a foreign country, I was literally like asking it, okay, I'm a vegetarian, where do I go to eat? What do I do? So, the impact is going to be really think of it as mobile. Like it's going to be everywhere and as utilized as mobile is.
So you have to understand like what stage we are in right now. So we are in this innovators, early adopter stage, wherein we are still trying to understand what impact AI can have. Industries are using it in their business lines. So you can see some context-based search. You will see certain chatbots in customer services. So many of these things are starting to pick up. From the bottom line, like in the coding practices, we can become easily 2x, 3x faster by using Copilot. Uh, like 10 years ago, what code I would write, I can write it in, let's say, 15-20% of the time today. So clearly a huge thing, right? So what change I'm seeing, right, from practical examples in my company is people are now expected not to divide themselves from a technical side of things, right? Say, okay, I was a database guy, I was a Java guy, I was a data platform, a data analyst guy. But now they are expected to take a complete ownership of the product line that they are attached to. And that is a very big fundamental shift from an ownership perspective. And anybody of us who are getting hired, it is not going to be like just one specific area, but essentially take a much wider ownership in that particular domain. And second thing which we have to be really comfortable with is adaptability. So, when I started my career, there were people who had essentially done their entire career, 30, 40 years, optimizing databases. So, like I joined Oracle in 2012, and that time I have seen people who are like 25, 30 years experience just doing database optimization. They made millions of dollars and just did their careers in that. Can we expect the same thing now? Uh, Possibly no, because the pace at which things are evolving is very, very high. So we have to kind of now assume much larger hats, larger ownership, as well as be adaptable to things they are coming. So I feel these two things, along with what creativity and everything that you said, Aditi.
It's not very obvious right now, but uh, it's going to become very, very obvious in the next 6 to 12 months, in my view. One thing I can say from my experience, even at Airtribe, which is a relatively small company, actually very small, we are about 45, 50 people now. And our core, our core product and marketing team would be 10 to 15. That's it. And even there, what we are seeing, anything that required 2, 3 people before, now one person is able to do it. Because if they come to me and they say, hey, Navneet, I think we need one more person in this role. And I say, have you used ChatGPT for this? Or have you tried this particular tool? Like there is something called Opus, which is for video editing, sorts app. And there are I think Aditi mentioned Mid Journey. In fact, today morning I was learning about a new tool, and its name is very fancy. It's becoming popular. It's called Lovable, and the app, what it is doing, it's taking Figma design and creating a full stack app out of it. And if all that becomes mainstream, which is only a matter of time, then what is the role a designer will have? What is the role a software engineer will have? When it comes to software engineer, then there are backend engineers, front-end engineers. Are these specializations going to stay the same way? Design. Are we going to have brand designers, graphic designers, visual designers? There are communication designers. I think in its heyday, tech created all the different roles, but I think many of these roles are going to merge now. That's so I There is one discussion I had with my co-founder, which was more about whether in tech people will lose jobs, and my argument was every company will be 1/10th, if not 1/20th, smaller than before. But because of efficiency gains in software development, even more companies will be there. One simple example would be for engineers who can relate. Um, App development actually increased tenfold as we went from C++ to Java, and as we went from Java to Python. So as we made it easier for more people to program, more software applications came out. In fact, all the popular apps that you use like in the last few years, apps like whether it's Dropbox or Instagram, or Quora, all those apps were actually primarily written in Python, and that that would not have been possible if it was not that easy for people to get started and ship. With AI, I think a lot more people are going to be able to ship a lot more faster, because of which we will have even more software products, not less, because these software products are a function of problems in society, and thankfully India has enough of it. Most of the consumer internet products that you use on a day-to-day basis, uh, what you see on the app is only a small part of the product experience. The product experience starts with they hearing about the product, to discovering the product, and then using it to get the service. So if you hire, uh, there is this concept called jobs to be done. Anyone is aware of this framework here? Uh, Anyone? It's a very popular framework. Christensen, what's the name of the guy?
Clayton Christensen
Clayton
and Bob
Christensen is,
Nesta.
yeah, he came up with the term.
Innovator's
Uh,
dilemma. Innovator's dilemma is it?
Yeah. In the book Innovator's Dilemma, I think also he talked about it. But yeah, that framework basically says the user hires your product to finish a task. So as a user, if I if I want to use Uber to go back home, I will use the app to book the cab, get downstairs, take the cab, get in the car, reach the destination, pay, and then get out. The whole thing was the product experience for me. So if only the app is good, but I get inside the car and the car is shitty, is smelling like hell, and the driver is just being not so nice, and I face difficulty at the end while paying the payment, all of it is part of product experience. Many people who get into product, they think they may not have to deal with many of these things, but you should talk to a PM at Ola versus a PM at Blue Smart and ask what do they care about. They probably care about two very different things. You get what I'm saying, right? So yeah, that's what I wanted to bring attention to. I wanted to ask you one question here. Actually, it's to both of you, but I will start with you. Who should not become a PM? And it will also be your genuine expression of all the PMs you absolutely hated working with. So I think it's super important for people to know why they want to do what they want to do. Why you should not become a PM?
Okay, that's a very tough question, but I can just give certain attributes with some of the PMs which I didn't
That make them
quite,
terrible.
yeah, we didn't quite like working with, right?
Okay.
So see, product manager, right now that you mentioned, right? It's of course there is a user journey, everything. Ultimately, a product is built by people. You will have a lot of teams, you will have a lot of people, and as people, everybody will have different opinions, different
Right.
perceptions. Why to do this way, why not to do it this way, right? So, and especially if you are as an engineering person, I might have to work on a specific problem statement. My negotiations will be very, very different from, say, if you want to become a PM, your negotiations will be very different, right? Because you are like the face for the company, right? You will be impacting their revenues, and so you have to really be able to negotiate with different business teams with the right spirits, not from a personal level, but from a company's level. What is really good for the company? And one thing which actually which took me a lot of time to internalize is things take a lot of time, much more time than what we anticipate for them to materialize in reality, right? So some of the product initiatives which you may be working on. So for instance, some product initiatives, say PMs at Myntra might be driving, from that concept to the actual, the fruit, the first version that you might see in reality. You might say, oh, it's 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
You might easily be working for 6 months, 1 year.
Yeah.
So you need to have that kind of really that resilience to go through a lot of shit, I would say. A lot of this, perception handling and, be able to manage a lot of stakeholders. So I would say if you're not ready for that, then please think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a heads up I can give, Navneet. I mean, stark reality. I mean,
The other way, I always say, I ask many candidates, do you like people? And they say, if they take too much time to reply, I'm like, don't be again. Maybe it's not for you. Sometimes very introverted people also come to me and they ask, can I become a PM? I'm like, chances are low, but you should give it a shot. Like, I have also met candidates in Airtribe's interview process who say, I was born an introvert, then I became an extrovert. And I'm like, you are an introvert, I can tell you based on the last 2 minutes of conversation, but people are not very sure, who they are. And it's a hard thing. Like most of us spend our entire life trying to find who we are, and then we die. So I'm like, it's a hard thing. But when it comes to career, things are not that hard. You can actually, narrow down the problem. All we are asking is, do you like talking to people and understanding their viewpoint? If you are not one of those, maybe this is not the right role for you.
and I mean, there are a lot of frameworks. I mean, it's not a very ambiguous problem, right?
Yeah, but
There are
they
lot of
should at least
Yes.
like people.
Yeah.
Then they will have interest in understanding those frameworks, right?
I was marketing Airtribe, so Airtribe will teach you those frameworks.
We do, by the way. If people have their why clear, we can help you with how. In fact, this very session is about how to go about it. What is clear? Like, no, all of you are thinking of becoming a PM one day. How Airtribe will take care of it with the program, with the events, with the content that we generate. You can go to YouTube and see one of our podcasts, and you'd be surprised by how much insight is there coming from a director and VP of a company. If those things are not very useful to you, I don't know what will be. But how and but the why has to be clear with you. What and how we can take care of, why you want to become something, it has to be clear. If it's not clear, you have time over the next few months to decide that. Some people build more clarity over time, at least in the Airtribe program. Some people take even more time, and that's fine. Like Kedar was saying, one thing he learned the hard way, things take time. And I also learned the hard way, things take a lot of time.
Yeah, I still not learned this lesson. I think from like why who should not become a
Who
PM.
is very direct. So I was more interested in why you should not become a PM. Yeah, there are certain things about the role which they are probably not prepared for, are not aware of, which you have noticed. So why somebody should not become a PM? Why somebody should become PM is very clear. It will pay you more. So it's very obvious. Everything else is secondary. But why you should not become PM is not so obvious.
See, I think I mean definitely being someone who likes to talk to people and understand their point of view is like probably very critical. I would even simplify it as like if you are not someone for whom empathy comes that naturally, it will be harder maybe. But to me, I think the most fundamental thing is if you don't like ambiguity, if you don't like sitting in chaos, it's going to be hard. Like that is for me probably the P0 of this. Like it is if the job of a PM just involves so much organized or disorganized chaos and so many unknowns at any given time. The number of moving parts that are there, the number of unknowns that you're dealing with, you have to like ambiguity, and you have to kind of be okay with not having been able to solve a problem for months, like legit months. Like there are at my time at Cult, I have only solved 2 problems. I've been there for like over a year and a half almost now. and I've solved 2 problems, but those are 2 amazing problems. Like, my point being, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. You have to be okay to live with a lot of ambiguity. You have to be okay. Like, by the way, the 2 problems I'm talking about, one of them I failed at. Like, matlab, it is unsolvable. Essentially, it's a function of time. So literally, I went to the CEO and I said कि भाई कुछ नहीं कर सकते, बैठे रहेंगे अभी 4 साल में अपने आप solve होगा. This is the speed at which this problem is moving. So you have to kind of have the, like, not only live with that headspace for so long, but be able to articulate ki this is what it is, this is where we are at, and this is the nature of this problem, that it is literally that hard. So yeah, I think time, empathy, all of these things, if you are not someone who enjoys these spaces, it will be harder for you. However, that being said, like, yeah, human mind is insanely flexible. Like, just if you have growth mindset about what you are doing, you can practically do anything and everything. For my startup, I ended up, so for years, I used to argue with my husband now, specifically about like how coding is not the most fundamental skill, and that you should know emotional intelligence and like be able to, be a kind, nice human. And then for my startup, I could not find a co-founder that I liked. And I could not figure that piece out. And I was just so desperate that 6 months in, I was like, okay, we are going to use, this was 2019, use something called Bubble to kind of build and code the entire thing myself. So, you learn, you grow, and there's not much in this world that is not figure outable if your why is very clear, as you said. So if you want to excel at being a PM, you can absolutely excel at being a PM. This is like everything that we have just mentioned is very much figure outable. Even if you are an introvert, it is figure outable. Some of the best PMs I know are introverted, because what introverts do exceptionally well is they listen, and they listen to the silences. And you would be surprised by how much of product management is just about listening. So yeah, there's definitely, like, yeah, if you will be able to figure it out as long as you know that you want to excel here. And just one last quick comment. You mentioned Clayton Christensen. His like partner for developing JTBD, Jobs to be Done theory, is a guy called Bob Moesta. He has a book called Demand Side Sales. Probably the most influential book that I have ever read in my product career. And then we were lucky enough to reach out. Like, I basically just dropped him a cold DM on LinkedIn. And this is a guy who's, 1 hour is like $1,500, $2,000. And he was very generous with his time. He spent a lot of time with us, advising us at my startup. Great book, Demand Side Sales. Would definitely say that you should read it.